Welcome to Storytelling Anime. Today I will continue storytelling anime Steins Gate Zero. Enjoy. Despite Kaguri regaining her childhood memories of Mayuri, who is informed about her future relationship with Kaguri, Rintaro and Daru remain curious about what happened during the past 12 years that she still doesn't remember. During an argument with her, Suzuha notices a contradiction in Kaguri's recollection of their separation, with Tenuji suggesting to Rintaro that it may have been the result of brainwashing. The next day, Rintaro goes with Mocha to investigate an abandoned building located near where Kaguri was found, discovering it to be a secret facility where Kaguri was held captive. Meanwhile, as Kaguri heads to a party held by Mayuri, she hears a song that causes more memories to resurface, at which point she starts hearing a voice and disappears somewhere. As months pass with no sign of Kaguri, Daru and Suzuha try to ask for Meiho's help in building a time leap machine. Meanwhile, Fubuki is once again brought to the hospital, where Rintaro runs into Leskinen. Back at the lab, Suzuha, who had found Kaguri's UPA toy on the floor of the lab, is attacked by a brainwashed Kaguri when she returns to reclaim it. Realizing that Kaguri was already brainwashed before traveling to the past, Suzuha and Daru once again ask Meiho for help. She is encouraged by Amadeus Kurisu to return to Japan, and decides to help them with the time machine. As Meiho arrives back in Japan, Suzuha, fearing that her future birth might be at stake, asks for everyone's help in making Daru confident enough to confess to Yuki before she ends up with someone else. To this end, Meiho uses a device that seemingly transforms Daru into a ladies' man in time for a date with Yuki. However, this plan does not seem to go well as Yuki ends up running off. As Daru feels downhearted, Suzuha revealed she had lied about there being someone else so she could remind herself of the peace she experienced before Yuki was killed in the future. Encouraged by Suzuha's sincerity, Daru decides to just be himself around Yuki on their next date, which ends with a successful confession. Seeing Daru and Yuki together gives Suzuha the self-confidence she needs as Kaguri watches from afar. Rintaro continues his efforts to qualify to study overseas, which seems to trouble Mayuri. Meanwhile, Daru and Meiho continue to develop the time leap machine with little success when Rintaro arrives and discovers it. He then angrily rants about how it is impossible to save both Mayuri and Kurisu, and that he chose to sacrifice Kurisu to protect Mayuri and the Beta World line. Meiho counters that Steins' gate must exist, and they must merely discover the formula that will lead them there. With either side backing down, Rintaro takes his leave and encounters Mayuri, who reveals that she heard his argument with Meiho and Daru. She tells Rintaro that she regrets convincing him not to continue to try and save Kurisu, as she can tell he is still suffering and not truly happy in this world line. Mayuri asks Suzuha to tell her everything she knows about the future, and what Rintaro has been through, learning that Suzuha plans to travel back to the past later that day. Wishing to see Kumahuen again despite her romantic feelings for Rintaro, Mayuri decides to go with Suzuha to the past to convince the Rintaro of the past not to give up on saving Kurisu. At that moment, however, Rintaro learns from Meiho that someone has managed to access Kurisu's knowledge of time machines from the Amadeus data, trying but failing to convince Suzuha and Mayuri not to travel back in time. As Suzuha heads for the time machine, she receives a D-mail from Daru in 2025, telling her that her actions have changed the world line, and gives her the details of Operation Arclight. At that moment, armed soldiers arrive to seize the time machine. Suzuha battles the soldiers to give Mayuri a chance to escape, but Mayuri is shot in the crossfire. Angered over Mayuri getting hurt, Kaguri attacks the other soldiers, taking fatal damage in the process. Meanwhile, Rintaro is confronted by Leskinen, who reveals himself to be a member of Stratfor who obtained knowledge of the future from Kaguri. Taking Meiho and Daru hostage, Leskinen reveals his future self had brainwashed Kaguri, and arranged for her to go back to the past as a messenger to his younger self, leading him to create Amadeus as a means to preserve Kurisu's time travel theory. Just as Leskinen attempts to take the time machine for himself, Kaguri uses the last of her strength to give Suzuha a chance to save everyone and knock Leskinen out. Mayuri and Suzuha attempt to use the time machine but are hit by a DERPA helicopter missile, resulting in the time machine being destroyed and their fate becoming unknown. As Rintaro is left distraught by the event, he receives a text from Mayuri explaining her reasons for wanting to go back and change past events. With the destruction of the time machine signaling the start of World War III, Rintaro gives Meiho and Dara the knowledge they need to complete the time leap machine. With some encouragement from Amadeus Kurisu, Meiho manages to complete the time leap machine, which Rintaro uses to leap back in time to before the incident. After urging Meiho and Dara to hack into Leskinen's computer and retrieve Amadeus' data, Rintaro rushes to Mayuri and Suzuha to warn them of what's about to happen, learning of their plan to convince his past self to pursue Steins' gate again. Just as Rintaro urges them to go, he is attacked by another soldier, revealed to be Professor Reyes, who is then shot by Leskinen. This ultimately leads to the time machine getting destroyed again, prompting Rintaro to once again keep time leaping until he can save Mayuri and Suzuha. Following his previous time leap attempt, Rintaro wakes up to discover he has suddenly ended up in the year 2036, where Akihabara has been devastated by World War III, and Daru, Suzuha, and the others have formed a resistance. Daru explains he was able to use the recently recovered time leap machine to implant Rintaro's 2011 memories into his current body and recounts the events that occurred in Rintaro's mental absence. In 2011, the time leap machine malfunctioned and they missed the 48-hour window to save Mayuri, so they decided to try and build a new time machine. In 2025, Rintaro was captured and tortured by Stratfor. When Daru rescued him, he was brain-dead but alive. For the next 11 years, Rintaro's survival was kept secret between a select few resistance members who cared for him. As Daru finishes his explanation, Luca and Ferris are caught up in an enemy trap, with Luca sacrificing himself to protect the other members before dying in Rintaro's arms. Realizing the truth he had refused to face, Rintaro asks to use the time leap machine to return to 2011 in order to find a way to the Steins' Gate world line. With help from Amadeus Kurisu, Rintaro begins a grueling journey to return to the past by performing consecutive time leaps. After reaching 2025, the day where he is supposed to be captured, Rintaro receives help from Amadeus and the others to evade capture and reach Akihabara, allowing him to make the complete journey to 2011. Reawakening his old mad scientist persona, Rintaro asks Daru to recover Amadeus' data while he enlists Tenuji's help in subduing Kaguri, allowing him and Mocha to stop Leskinen and help send Mayuri and Suzuha safely into the past. However, the attack helicopters show up earlier than usual, launching another missile strike as the time machine activates. With each attempt at saving Mayuri and Suzuha failing, Rintaro deduces that they need to stop the Russians from interfering with the time machine's departure. Finding that Russia's ability to make a time machine lies with Kurisu's memory data, Amadeus Kurisu proposes that the only way to stop Russia is to use Daru's D-Rhine, a custom app messaging system that can send emails without them being detected by a CRN, to send a message to himself in the past to delete Amadeus. Speaking with a hesitant Rintaro through the night, Amadeus Kurisu tells him that she would be glad to sacrifice herself if it means finding Steins' Gate and avoiding WWII. After Amadeus Kurisu says her goodbyes to everyone, the D-Rhine is sent, erasing Amadeus and sending Rintaro to a new world line. Arriving in a world line where Amadeus doesn't exist, Rintaro heads to the roof, receiving help from Mocha in getting past Leskinen. As Rintaro urges Mayuri and Suzuha to travel into the past, Kaguri, who decides to place her faith in Rintaro, helps him to hold back the enemy just long enough for the time machine to successfully leave before the helicopter attacks. Arriving just before Rintaro returns from his failed rescue attempt, Mayuri calls her past self with an encouraging message, asking that she set Rintaro on the right path, after which she and Suzuha are forced to jump into a random time period to avoid causing a time paradox. The past Mayuri slaps Rintaro to knock him back to his senses, and then receives a D-mail from Rintaro. In the year 2025, Rintaro sends his past self a video instructing him on how to save both Mayuri and Kurisu and reach Steins' gate before setting off in a time machine to find Mayuri and Suzuha. Meanwhile, Mayuri and Suzuha have become trapped somewhere at an unknown barren land in the year 18,000 BC when they see Rintaro arrive in his time machine to rescue them. As Valentine's Day approaches, Suzuha becomes curious about who Kaguri wants to give chocolate to. With the other girls wanting to give chocolates as well, Ferris holds a chocolate-making session which starts as a disaster since nobody knows how to cook, but everything is soon saved by Luca and Yuki. It is only after Kaguri disappears that Suzuha discovers the chocolates she made were for everyone she holds dear. Thanks all for storytelling about Steins Gate Zero. See you next time. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Have a good day, thank you.